Let's make sure this is working. Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Changing the Climate, a show where we talk about the changing world around us and how we can make it better. I'm excited to welcome my guest, Mr. Daniel Vineis. Dan, thank you for joining us. Cool.
Hey, how you doing, Ethan?
Hey, man. Doing well. Happy to be here, as always.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I already said you look dapper in your bow tie. So.
Oh, well, cheers to that. Cheers to that. Going with purple this week. And my mustache is starting to come in pretty well.
Yeah. I got the COVID sheet going on right now. So.
Has to be done. Cool. Yeah. So Dan, I guess, I can start by giving a little background. I don't know if you were expecting this. So for the first week, I talked about Darian and how we used to talk about how to start a business or our big business dreams in Spanish class or whatever. Then Bailey and I are obviously really close. So I guess I'll start with like a little story. So Dan Vineis, he's 2 years older than me. We both went to Lakeland Regional High School. We're both from Ringwood, New Jersey. We both are interested in real estate now at this point. But so funny backstory. As many of you may know, I'm very interested in lifting weights. I lift 5 times a week. I've been very into exercise. I used to work out with Dan and all his buddies from the football team at Lakeland. And Dan, I don't know if you remember, you actually taught me how to do walking dumbbell lunges, which is an absolutely murderous exercise that I pretty much don't know anybody else who does. And to this day, I always find a way to work that exercise into my program. So I thought that would be a funny way to start off the podcast.
Oh, I would like to start off by apologizing then, because that is like the worst thing ever.
No, it's good. It's up there with squats and abs, man. It's brutal.
Yeah, if you really feel like beating yourself up that day.
Yeah, so that was back in like January of 2012 or something back, and that's just like my funny Vineis story that I could think of off the top of my head.
That's funny, man. Yeah,
cool.
Kudos for you being able to remember all the way back there.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a bit detail oriented, but yeah. Anyways, so before I start rambling, I just want to like kind of give us a little bit of background on you, a little introduction, and we'll just kind of see where we can go from there. I'm just excited to give everyone a chance to hear your story because when you told me last week, it was pretty awesome to listen to. So I'm excited.
All right, so I will start, I guess, a little bit after the whole lunch story happened.
Yeah.
My senior year of high school, I found out I was having a kid, Kendall. She was born in August. So pretty much going in as being like a single teenage parent, like bunch of challenges that came with that. When Kendall was 9 and 2 weeks before my 19th birthday, my dad passed away. So that made it even more interesting because then 19 with a kid, trying to put yourself through school, and all of a sudden you had a lot more like financial responsibilities. And just the best way I could describe that feeling in my life was like it's a Saturday morning and you have covers on you, like a thick like comforter, and like someone just ripped it off, and you have like 2 options where you get to sit there and like discomfort, or like you're gonna get up and to start moving. And it was the first time in my life that I'd say I really felt like everything was dependent upon me. Like if I didn't make actions happen, like very bad things were going to happen to people.
That's real quick too. 19. Yeah,
it was definitely a fast transition into adulthood. But that being said, I think there's silver linings in everything, and the power of kind of knowing who you were at a young age and having like direction. It's huge. I always give the analogy that like, if you have like 4 people, right? You have one person that just falls on their face all the time and they're just constantly going in circles, falling on their face. You have another person that walks perfectly, takes 10 perfect steps, but they only go in a circle. You have a third person that takes perfect steps and they take 10 steps in one direction. And then you have one other person, the fourth person, and they're willing to fall on their face continuously without stop with a direction, and that person will be farther than the person that took 10 perfect steps.
Which is crazy pain tolerance.
Yeah, you have to be willing to fail, because every single time you fall on your face and you pick yourself up, you take baby steps forward.
And you get stronger.
exactly. So that's a pretty good way to explain like that part of my life.
Yeah. So it sounds like when you were 19, you were pushed through the floor into hell in a sense.
Yeah, more or less, and also the other thing is that fear has a lot to do with keeping people in place. Even like, when I told people I was having a kid like that young, they almost treated it like I was terminally ill. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
get
no,
it.
like that's like honestly the best part of my life, man. Like,
Of
like that's
course.
what got me through the actual struggles in my life is like my daughter and my relationship with her. So,
Yeah,
um, it's things aren't as hard as most people make them out to be.
I think that's
It's
fair.
it's just, it is what it is.
Well, life
Some
goes on, right?
life goes on,
Yeah.
absolutely. So then after that, I was going through school and was terrible at it,
Hmm.
as I was in high school as well.
Was
Actually,
this like community college?
this was community college. It's a
Okay.
Bergen community. And then actually prior to that, I didn't even walk my own graduation.
High
Because
school.
I found out I was having a kid, kind of freaked out and started working like 60 hours a week. So I was like, that's the only kind of response I had to it.
Okay, yeah, but
Uh,
here, so right off the bat, you find out something life changing is happening, and a lot of people will go numb and maybe enter a depressive state or something. Right off the bat, this is just so cool about you, and then why I'm so excited for this talk. You immediately just kicked it into gear. 60 hours, 19 years old. Are you still, and that's still while you're taking classes in high school? Is that right?
yeah, yeah. And I was doing very poorly at the classes in high
Yeah,
school.
but
So
but
yeah.
this is not. I mean, that's not just a normal thing for someone, even with responsibility, to just jump into 60 hours. It's an interesting characteristic of yours. It's very respectable. I find at least.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But everyone has those moments of weakness. And I was lucky mine was for about 2 days. I was feeling like the pity party for myself.
Quick
And
fall.
who was it? It was Kenny Chesney's song came on 2 days after I found out I was having a kid. And it was There Goes My Life. And I listened to that whole song and it just made me feel like, wow, you are so selfish. You have the opportunity to like live for someone other than yourself.
Amazing.
And all my questions were like, oh, my life, my life. And I was like, it's not about you anymore. And once you give up, like it's another thing with fear holding you in place.
Hmm.
Once you stop living for like a monetary means or like your own personal like gain, you're able to do a lot more because that a lot of your fears have to do with yourself and preservation. So if you're able to take yourself out of it and work for something else like a big why, your ability to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and be fine with it just grows like exponentially.
Have you read Start with Why?
No, I have not,
So that
but
that's where the idea of the big why comes from. It's a book by Simon Sinek. It's about how the most successful businesses that have ever or that exist are successful because they know what their purpose is before they get started, rather than just deriving profit. It's about some sort of big purpose. Like he uses the example of Apple wanting to create the best, most user friendly technology. That's like a why, and the why is what drives you forward. Obviously, you'll talk a lot about how family can be your big why, and I think that's the way it is for a lot of people, and that just makes sense.
yeah, and I mean if we're going into that, understanding your big why is huge. It's like that's what was so powerful for me at 19, understanding what my genuine like big why was. And most people, it's going to be pretty similar. People are going to say family and all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
before I go into the rest of my story, I think it is very important for anyone to really just acknowledge where you are in life and all your actions, if they don't like add up to pursuing that big why, you're kind of lying to yourself. And that's where a lot of people end up being miserable. It's because
Mm-hmm.
they know what makes them happy, but their actions dictate elsewise. Like if you say your family is the most important to you, I had to work 70 hours a week for 2 years. I had a plan though, and I was miserable. It was a huge, I'll get into it, but it was a very
Yeah, and the
challenging
plan
time.
is the key. The plan is why you're where you are right now.
And that's the only reason why I was able to do it. But people will do that for 40 years
Yeah,
and just have no exit strategy, and they'll say the most important thing is their family and stuff like that, and they end up miserable. And if I'm able to help anyone from not being like that, like that's a huge life goal of mine.
totally. And the cool thing is back two things. So the why is what picks you up when you've fallen, and the why is what forces you to stay with your plan and actually continue and follow through. Cause it's easy to say, I'm going to work 70 hours a week for 2 years and then I'm going to be in a really good position. But then when emotions come knocking or death in the family or anything happens, it's your why, it's your powerful motivator. And it has to not just be like, I want a fancy car. I mean, if you're obsessed with cars, I guess that might work, but it really, like, that why is what will keep you on track. Like, my why is just creating it. It really does come down to like love for me, just like a love for just human beings in general, the planet, the earth, nature, just like good energy is a big motivator for me, because that's what I want to put out. That's what I like to get back. But I don't know. I want to talk about you first for sure.
No, hey, that's a huge point. And if people understand that, they just by understanding that fact, they will be more successful in all aspects of their life just by understanding that. You have a hierarchy.
Self-understanding.
Yeah, you have a hierarchy of needs.
Mm.
And as soon as your need for self-preservation, which is normally fear-based, it's that feeling of like, oh, what if I do this and something terrible happens? Like,
Fear is a terrible motivator.
and so if your why is stronger than that, you can overcome it. If your why isn't, you're, as soon as like things aren't good and you like, shit hits the fan, sorry for cursing, but
Yeah, no
like
worries.
you're gonna give up because it's not, your why isn't stronger than your fear of preservation
Yeah.
and your basic hierarchy of needs. So it's huge to understand. Like, I would, if anyone was about to go on entrepreneurial or any kind of like self, like, fulfilling prophecy, whatever you want to
Prophecy.
call
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
you have to understand like really what's important to you and what's going to push you through those hard times, because you're going to have them. Nothing just, 'cause the
There's no way
difference
around it.
between me and a billionaire is they've solved more problems. They put themselves in a position to inherit more problems and they fix them.
And they've probably failed more than you
Well,
on many
exactly.
levels.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Goes back
Yeah.
to, what I was saying about falling on your face with a direction.
Yes.
You can fall on your face in a million different ways and you won't go anywhere. But if you fall on your
That's a
face
good
with a
point.
direction, you're gonna, surpass pretty much anyone, because most people are scared of failing.
Cool. So, all right. So you were 19, your father passed away. You have this new young daughter and you're going to start working really hard is what it sounds like. We're in the story.
I'm going to start working very creatively.
Well,
So
no,
I had,
I meant like in the story, like in the timeline back in like 2000, what was it? 13?
yeah, I had her in 2013. So then 2014, my dad passed away. So yeah, so around that time frame.
So
So after that, I had a lot of inner struggles that I had to work out. Um,
naturally.
oh yeah, of course, yeah, and that's it. Really, the parallel of like life in the most extreme form of my daughter being born and death, as in my father, one of the people I looked up to in the most, within 9 months of herself, just completely, just my entire view on life was just
It's
warped.
incredible. Yeah.
Um, so it just changed pretty much how I looked at everything. And after that, I was getting a lot of flack from family members and friends saying, like, listen, like, you have to be the man of the house now. You're gonna have to go to work. You're gonna have to do X, Y, and Z because you have to provide. And
Everybody loves to tell you what to do, right?
yes, everyone loves to
That's
tell me
their
what to
favorite
do.
thing.
And so I actually was living like an alternative lifestyle where I really wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. Like, that was my, like, I just love it. It's what I've always weirdly wanted to be a dad. So like
Yeah.
I like
That's not
teaching, I
weird.
like stuff like that. So like it was just natural to me. So like I just fell in love with my daughter and being a father. So
Well,
like,
time is precious, especially at that young age when they're so impressionable as well. You just want to be the best influence you can and just see it all happen.
yeah, man, you don't get that back. And it is fundamentally the most important time for your child. So I made a promise to Kendall that her first 5 years of life, I was going to be mostly a stay-at-home father.
Mm-hmm.
Because that brought her into full-time school. So I could pretty much, I was working at a pizzeria, I was going through school, and I was being a stay-at-home dad for the most part. During that like next like 4-ish years. Um and then
Meanwhile, other people your age are studying, but just drinking copious amounts of alcohol, having random sex with people, and doing all that. That's like you're in the real part, like the next stage, like that big stage. Meanwhile, your peers are all out like dicking around, kind of not knowing what you're doing, just to show the harsh contrast that's going on. Am I wrong? You know what I mean?
like I said, at 19 I understood who I was and what made me happy,
Right.
because I went through just crazy times at a young age. So it was a huge advantage to me moving forward. And so pretty much after that, I ended up getting the job at the DPW.
Hmm.
So that was June.
Do you want to
11th.
tell people what that is exactly, what the job
Oh,
is?
Department of Public Works. I work for my town. It's a government job.
For
So
Ringwood, New Jersey, right?
correct. Yep, for Ringwood, New Jersey.
Cool.
So I pretty much ended up going there full time Monday through Friday, and I was still working at the pizzeria. So I ended up working about 70 hours a week for 2 years.
Yeah.
Uh,
Crazy.
and yeah, it was very painful for me because I had to give up a lot of time with my daughter. But there
Yeah.
was also years of me feeling like a failure, kind of as like a son and a provider, because you have
Hmm.
that natural male instinct. And there was years where, like, I knew my purpose was to be able to be a stay-at-home father with my daughter. But
Yeah.
like when people would say stuff, it would subconsciously get to me. So I felt really good. And for the first 3 or 4 months, I was just took over and was like, all right, I get to pay all the bills and all that stuff. And then I realized that was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible working that
Well,
long.
70 hours, man. Like people, you just take a moment and pause to think about that. Most people are working 9 to 5. So that's probably what are we working 6 or 7 days a week?
I was working 7 days a week. I was working
Wild.
40 to 45 hours at the DPW Monday through Friday. And then I would leave on Friday and I would pick up a shift at the pizzeria from 5 or 4 till 11. And then I worked 12 plus hour shifts Saturday and Sunday.
You're such a
Um,
badass. Anyways, keep going. Keep going.
that pretty much got me to that point. Like I said, 4 months into it, I was like, wow, this is terrible. I might have skipped a part during my whole stay-at-home dad thing. I've always been like just a really strict saver and budgeter, so I was
So
able
that's
to
very
kind of
helpful.
live. Yeah, I was able to live like below like I was able to like really make a strict budget for those 5 years. But I also took advantage of one of the biggest economic upswings of the U.S. history.
Hmm.
And I invested
If
in
not the.
Bitcoin and other things that would never recommend doing, but I got lucky. I did. I made a couple $1,000s off of it, and
Yeah.
it actually over the next 2 years after that, pretty much helped me support myself because I wasn't making enough to live, and I went into the workforce with about $1,000 left. So it was very, very
Wow.
tight, but
Yeah.
made it work.
You did.
um, so then after that, that brings me up to about 4 months of me being like, this is just not a way. It's not sustainable. I wouldn't make enough at the DPW to be able to fulfill all like my investing wants and stuff like that. So I was like, I have to figure out a way because I don't want to work 70 hours a week. So October 28th, I'm a journaler too. I journal every single
October
day.
28th of 2017.
Oh, 2018.
Okay.
So I started June 11th, 2018 at the DPW. And
Yep.
then so this was October 28th. I was working with a guy. And, I was just, talking and we were talking. We got into real estate and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I always have wanted to like buy a rental property, but I would only buy like, and I gave a bunch of like super conservative, like just no education behind it kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
he wasn't like super educated on it either, but he asked why. And for the first time in about 5 years, someone asked me why that, like, cause my dad used to do it all the time. 'Cause he was an entrepreneur. So like,
No
if I had
kidding.
something, he would just be like, why? And like, just make you think about it. And
Yeah.
it clicked. And I was like, you know what? I don't know why. And it really bothered me because I pride myself on not really being like a sheepish person. Like
Yeah.
I develop my own opinions on pretty much anything. And I was like, I was just
Well, that
talking
can be good and bad.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
Coming
absolutely.
from someone who's the same way.
Yeah. So, but I realized it bothered me because I realized that my opinion was just being formed off of like fear. It wasn't being formed off of any education, any
Can
backing.
you elaborate? Your opinion on real estate was motivated by fear?
So, I, our exact conversation went something like, I was like, yeah, I would buy like a small, like 2 bedroom, 1 bath starter home and like have that as a rental. And he was like, why wouldn't you buy like a 4 or 5 plex? And I was like, more or less, it came down to like, because that scares me.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
not
just
good.
like, because I just never thought I would be worth buying that. Really, what it comes down to is that like when people see that and they're like, oh, whoa, it's more or less like they internally feel like they're like, oh, well, that's for other people. I can't do that because I'm not worthy of it. Like, they're not going to say it, but really that's what it comes down
Yeah.
to. And that bothered me because I was like, I don't have a good answer. And I kind of sat there for a little bit and I was like, get back to you. And then my obsessive personality took over. And I just
The
fell in
research game
love.
began.
Oh my goodness, I fell in love. I got obsessed.
Same thing happened to me.
I listened to 400 podcasts in like 2 months, something like that. Because even to today, man.
Are you at the DBW? So with the DBW, you're doing work around town, gardening or whatever, and you're just listening to real estate investing podcasts.
Whenever I'm driving at the pizzeria, people make fun of me all the time.
Right.
I always
this
got
is
it.
beautiful. So not only is he working 70 hours a week, but he's multitasking, building his side business because he's doing jobs where he's able to kind of like zone out a little bit. So it's like you could be spending that time just kind of like mulling around, but no, you took extensive action. And then this seems like the key to your story. First off, you were thrown into, you have to take action or stuff's going to get pretty bad. And then you just kept taking action, and it's going to lead to the further on in the story. Yeah. Cool.
So that would pretty much bring us up to, I was just became obsessed, started just like
naturally
audiobooks. I mean, last year I started tracking like everything that I do. And
wait, I'm not tracking. You mean financially, or what do you
everything? I've always tracked my financials. I've been a big budget guy since.
What do you mean tracking everything you do? Like how much time you're spending learning or something?
Literally everything I do.
And it's so invaluable to keep track of your activity, because then you collect data, and data is like the most valuable commodity we have in this world, because then you look back of the activity that you've done over the last year, and you can do analysis and then think, if I do this better, I'll get this result better. That's why tracking is just so invaluable for anything business related or just self-improvement in general.
What matters gets measured.
Right.
So yeah, I started tracking everything. Like I said, I'm a big journaler. My mornings is like a 6-part morning routine. So like I'm pretty structured when it comes to that stuff, because I realized at a pretty young age that a budget and a schedule and a calendar is actually, most people view it as something that weighs upon you, but it actually gives you freedom, because once you understand all those things and where your time is being allocated and where your finances are being allocated, you're able to really do the things you love and make time for them. Where people feel overwhelmed, I almost never do, and I do a lot. So
yeah, clearly,
just because of all that stuff. So where did I leave off? So I was pretty much self-educating, obsessive, and then
sounds like we're about beginning of 2019 now.
Yeah.
So you've been working for 5 years. Is it consistently like 70 hours a week, or?
Yeah, I didn't take a day off for about
and
a year and a half.
Stopped. Did you stop going to class at community college?
So I stopped going to class. I probably skipped that part. I stopped going to class. I think 2016. Because one, it wasn't working out for me. I was going for law originally, and I actually did pretty well in college, but I was going for law because I wanted to be a cop. And then I realized that the rotating schedule wasn't for me as a single parent. And I kind of realized, like, again, knowing what was important to me, I didn't put myself in a position where I'm like, oh, I hate my job after like 15 years. And then I went for finance, and I was like, a drive and a commute to the city and pretty far. I was like, that also doesn't sound like it's for me. No. So I ended up stopped going there. And then
that's when you got the DPW job.
And it was because my daughter went to full-time school. I got out at 3:30 and she got out of school at 3:25. So beautiful. I didn't miss any time with her.
Cool. So now we're through all the college and the beginning of your daughter's life, and you've just been working and working and working. You're just grinding away, taking care of the family. Now you've been educating yourself on the world of real estate investing, and we're at the beginning of last year.
Yeah. So I was really trying to find myself in the field of real estate, and I was just making this really because I was just like, I'm just gonna like make offers. So I made offers, and like, thank God that
people won't necessarily. You mean make offers on properties because you're qualified to buy?
Yeah. So
Because you've been working for so long, you have a 5-year working. So we just got to make sure we make it clear for anyone who's listening, because me and you can probably chat real estate easy, like throwing terms back and forth, lease option agreements, rent to rent, whatever,
yeah.
buy to let, burr. Like we need to make sure that like people can actually know what we're talking about.
Okay. So
You decided you were going to buy a house, but not you were going to buy a house as an investment, not to live in. Is that right?
correct. I was gonna make a house as an I was gonna buy a house as an investment, and thank God none of them went through for a long time because I had
Were you lowballing?
no idea what I was doing. What?
Were you lowballing people?
No, I was just offering because I got excited and I was like, cool, I have to do this now. And then I was just like I said, I'm so happy.
Were you making offers unrepresented?
So originally I would just go to the listing agent before I had my license, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go to them and be like, hey,
Straight to
let you be my agent, and like let me just say, let
You're
me
gonna
make.
let them double end it, and you were gonna just make an offer.
And I just in my head I was just like, I mean, I know there's a lot of legal ramifications for the agent stuff. Like, man, in my head I was just like, it's like sweetening the pot, kind of, you know. So
Yeah, I see.
that was that was my original pre-education
In Jersey,
educating myself.
you were walking around. You were walking into houses and making offers in New Jersey.
More or less, yes.
Okay.
Knowing nothing, knowing
Yes.
nothing other than the fact that like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, but no sound background on it. So thank God that didn't pan out. Uh, after about after I wrote one, and it was a short sale, which means that the bank needs to pretty much they're selling for
The bank's
less
underwater.
than what they owe the
Yeah.
bank. So it's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a friend about 3 months into it. They upset didn't end up going with it because, again, a fail. I talked to a friend in real estate as I was developing relationships, and they asked me just some contract questions, and I was like, I I didn't read any of it, and I know nothing. And I was like, maybe I should just educate myself a little bit. So
More. Yeah.
then I was this was probably the craziest time frame, like time wise. I was still working the 70 hours a week
Mm-hmm.
with being a single parent, and I got in about a 8-month span. I got my CDL license for my job, which is commercial driver's license.
Okay.
I got my real estate license, and I went through Fire One for my volunteer fire service in about 8 months, like with all that stuff, and it was miserable. Would not recommend anyone ever do that.
This is in addition to delivering pizza every night and working out in the field, like around town every
Yeah,
day?
yeah, doing labor and stuff. Yeah, it was terrible. I wouldn't ever
How
recommend.
many hours is required to get your real estate license in New Jersey? I think it's 96.
Um, Something like that. It was
So it's 96 hours of classes. What does it entail getting your CDL? What kind of prep is that?
CDL was probably about 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I think it's 16 hours of driving time, and then you take the test. Um, and
All right.
then yeah, and then Fire One's
So
like
let's be real for a second here. Like, yeah, sure, you're a single father, you're motivated by family. You love working, man. There's no other way around it. It's hard for someone who doesn't like working to hear what you're saying and like even be half of what you like. You obviously you just want to be on the grind.
see, and I appreciate that, but I think the exact opposite.
Really? Okay. So you've got
I really, really like to scale things, and I like my time. Like, dude, my time. If I was able to be a single father, I mean, a stay-at-home father, like that's
you would
it.
have done that.
That's all I
Yeah.
would do. I
Wasn't in the
understand.
cards.
I was on this time where I was just like, okay, so what's important to me? I was
You
like,
need to build that.
volunteering is important to me. So I went out and I became a volunteer firefighter. It's like cool because that fulfills me. For my job, if I got my CDL, it would make me make more money an hour. So eventually I could translate that to be like, okay, I could take less time off because I'm making a higher per hour. And, it would help me, progress and all that stuff. And then real estate, I needed an education. And also I saw the potential of having more of a flexible schedule. So that was all in the path of buying my
So
time
it's
back.
all just imperatives then. If I do this, then I'll be able to do this. And it's all
Yeah.
leading to this time where you can just spend more time with your daughter.
Yes.
It's hard
And
to believe. It's hard to believe that you could go from because you know, if you're a full-time real estate investor, it takes work, but eventually you will be able to like have a lot of free time. It's hard to imagine you going from grinding for so many years to just kind of like chilling out. You might just like get antsy. You might be volunteering at 4 different organizations at that point. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and that's also the other thing is that like I've never not been in the position where I've had to hustle for the last like 6 years. So like I don't necessarily know, but so I mean that so in my timeline that would lead us up to
Is it summer of 19?
so yeah, it would be summer of 19. I am finishing up with Fire Academy by November. I'm still making offers. I have more of an
Yeah.
education. I have my license.
So you are working for the DPW. You deliver pizzas. You have your real estate license for residential sales. Is that right?
Correct.
You have your CDW license. You're a volunteer firefighter, and you're a father. I'm running out of fingers. Yes.
And I'm trying to actively invest. So I'm
And
doing
right, and you're working on a side business of real estate investment, and you're making offers on houses, which involves doing analysis and looking into the property, see if it will be a good deal, if it'll cash flow, all that stuff. So
so
that's like 7 jobs. All right, I'm keeping up.
yeah, I don't think I've actually eaten at a lunch or a break at my work in probably about a year because I'm always on the phone or
Badass.
doing stuff.
Yeah.
So like I said, at that point, November I finished with Fire Academy, so I have a little more free time. In the meantime, I'm making offers, all that stuff. An ex-girlfriend of mine came up and for her sister's wedding, and we got to talking, and we were just catching up. And she's an agent down in North Carolina, and pretty much I was telling her like at this point, like I was educated on real estate, and I was like,
And
I'm
you were
looking for
in.
this, and that, and she was just like, would this work? And I was like, yes. I went down there the week after and I owned a house 2 weeks after that. So pretty much as soon as she showed me within like 3 weeks, we closed on a house. And that was my first rental. Um, so
Is it is
uh,
it is it cash flowing now?
yeah. So this gets more into like the weeds of things. So
Yeah.
stop me if you want me to elaborate on something because
Yeah. So you were looking to buy a property to rent as an investment. That's a great thing to do, guys. This is a great way to build wealth. We could go on a whole tangent about that. We'll try and keep it more on Dan. But and then eventually you had a contact essentially come up and say, hey, I'm in with this real estate community down in North Carolina. There's good investment properties. People are picking up good deals all the time. We could work something out here where I'm doing this for you and you're able to kind of earn some passive. Is she managing the property for you as well?
no. So again, I just reached out to a lot of people that I knew were very wealthy, and like whenever I listen to a podcast, I'll just email that person. I'll drum up their information, and I'll go social media,
That's
email, and
another
I'll try and get
huge
the number.
differentiator. Normal people don't do this, bro. Like normal people don't do that. Won't just reach out. Like this is like, so I've done 2 Change in the Climate episodes already, and Dan Vineis, haven't heard from him pretty much probably since he graduated high school. He reaches out to me now. He's on the show now, so I know. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever. Changing the Climate, it's no big deal right now. It's just a new little Ethan Shapiro show, but initiative and putting in work, like it gets results, and it sets you apart from everyone else. Like the fact, so you would try and make connections with these people who are providing you education. Very cool, very different from most people. It's just very impressive, man. Anyways, so
yeah. If you honestly come at them and just like don't ask like
be my
how,
mentor, please. I want to
yeah,
talk.
or
I want to
like
have weekly coaching calls with you.
yeah, like how do I retire and to like read they normally have a
They
lot of
don't
people are
want they don't want
successful.
to answer questions that you can Google.
They give out a lot of content a lot of the time. If you see them on a podcast or something like that, they have at least some kind of like an educational based, like, you could find them somewhere. So read their stuff. And if you can't get an answer, if you have a question that generates off of that, they really appreciate it. If they
Sure.
see like you're really vetted and like you're into it, like, they want to help you because they see you like in them,
Here's a great
like,
example of being inspired by my audience. Like you watched my podcast and now you're here on it talking on it. So it's cool. And yeah,
yeah,
I'm happy to
yeah.
have you.
So yeah, I mean it's huge. That education was huge. So anyway, I reached out to a bunch of people and realized that like I mean, flat out, dude, I'm just not a talented human being. I am just not a talented human being. So
He's
I
modest,
was
folks.
talking. I can't. I wish I could give whomever this was that gave me this advice a shout out, but I cannot remember who it was. And they've kind of like helped me realize, like, get out of my ego and be like, yeah, I'm not really that talented. And they're like, so if something goes wrong with your property, like, are you gonna fix it? It's like,
Because
no, dude, I don't know how to do
he
that.
lives in Ringwood, New Jersey. So that's what, 900 miles away from North
It's like
Carolina.
600 and something.
600. So it's a hefty journey for like
Yeah.
a broken gutter.
So yeah, pretty much more or less. I realized I was like, well, most of this stuff, like, I'm just gonna call someone for, and I was like, well, managing it, like, I'm doing all this to buy back time, so like, I don't want to really manage it. So like, all the stuff, I was like, I'm gonna have to build a team anyway. So why don't I just do it where I could do it anywhere in the world? Because if I'm 600 miles away, it doesn't matter if I'm 3,000 miles away or in a different country.
Hey,
So I was
yeah.
like, you know what, like, this again, knowing what was important to me, and I was like, I could totally just be like, oh, let me do it all, but I was like, no, I want to buy back my time. This is why I'm doing this. So I developed a team there, and yeah, pretty
With
much.
help from your local contact.
Yeah, that, and just I read David Green's book, Investing in Long Distance Real Estate, and that is gold if you're looking for being able to weigh like the people that you want to hire and a good like interviewing kind of thing, and building a team from a distance. Like, it's gold. It's
Let me
just
get
great.
my notepad. You can keep going.
Yeah, no, that book is amazing. So then after that, yeah, so I bought the first house, and I'm gonna just give this. It's more of an analytical kind of thing, not like a personal thing, but I think people
Yep,
should really know it because
absolutely.
I'm assuming your audience is gonna be kind of around our age.
Probably. We'll see.
Which
We'll see who's watching.
I'm 26, by the way, so I didn't necessarily have that much money. I was doing this, like I said, I came into the workforce with $1,000. I'm a perpetual saver, so like I
But you
did have a
saved.
good amount. But what I ended up doing was something that's called like the Burr method, which is you buy, rehab, rent, and repeat. Um,
That's
so
wild.
pretty much, I went in and bought a house for, I think it was $103,000. I put about 6 grand into it, which all in was like 109, and it appraised for 150. Uh,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
so there was about 2,000, a little more than 2,000 on my closing costs. So all into it was about like 111. And
What's the deal? Was it a distressed property?
uh, it was a foreclosure. So it was a foreclosure that had a terrible smell to it.
Yep.
And
There it is. It's always the smell. The
when I
smell is the
walked in,
best way.
I heard this line, so I'm totally like stealing it from someone. But when I walked in, I just like, I was like, oh, smells like money.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I heard that from somewhere, so I totally stole it. But
100%. I mean, think about it. If you have like a newborn, or you're about to get your first house, and you're a couple and you just want to live in the house, you go in there and you smell like a horrible smell, that's going to turn you off right away. But if you're an investor, you want the properties that nobody else wants to buy. Oftentimes repainting or just changing the cabinets or something can get rid of that smell, bring the property value up. Could be $10,000.
slipping. Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
ozone machine and a deep clean, and that's pretty much all I needed to get the
Yeah.
smell. So it was super easy.
Hold on, come on.
And
Sorry, I get excited about this stuff. Let's pause for a second. So he bought the house. He went under contract. The seller, or whoever it was, the bank, agreed to sell the property to him for $103,000. So you'd think, okay, he bought it for what it's worth. Maybe it's 100, maybe it's 110. He then goes in. He puts $6,000 more of his own capital into it, making renovations, getting rid of the smell, whatever. A certified appraiser, someone who goes in and says how much a real estate or property is worth, then comes in and says this property is worth $150,000. So this is crazy money, guys. For how many weeks did the renovations take?
it took 9 days.
Yeah, like this is insanity. People are putting $2,000 into what Nikola or all these stocks. They're putting in $2,000, getting $2,000 back. If you have money and you qualify for a house and you do a Burr strategy or a wedge deal, This guy, I mean, it's sure. I mean, he could sell the house tomorrow and have us or reappraise it or refinance, whatever. We're talking about a gain of $30,000 in 9 days, people. This is real. This is real. This stuff actually happens. Sorry, I get really excited about real estate. Let's keep rolling.
Dude, I feel you. I'm the same way. So
I mean, you lived
it's
it.
huge. It's life. I'm gonna say this before I get into it, just because I want people that are listening to really understand it.
Yeah.
Any person that's listening to this, does not matter where you are, you can retire within 10 years without not without doing the painful things I had to do. You can retire within 10 years. I'm doing it, and I did it in the most painful way because I'll get into it, but I wanted to leave my job within a year. So like I had to go through a lot of growth, and it's just growing pains. I had to go through a lot of growth in a short period of time. So
And hey, man, you're accustomed to that already at this point.
yeah. So that was the first deal. I refinanced it, which was at 75% of the LTV.
So that was like 115.
So it ended up being 112,500. So all
112
in, I was at about like 11 something. So I actually got paid a couple $100 to buy my first rental that was cash flowing.
Pause for a second. He got paid to buy a house. He now owns the house and he rents it out. So someone's paying his mortgage and he made money from it. And he has, just a casually sitting there worth $150,000. It's paying itself off every month. Crazy. All right.
Yeah, not only that, a testament just to being a person. Like I pretty much just went through my timeline.
Mm-hmm.
People watch and they acknowledge who you are. So just never be a person that you don't align with, because my first house, I raised private money on it. I never had to go to a bank or use my own finances.
No kidding. So you made a cash offer originally.
Yeah, cash offer.
So that's another reason why you got a good deal.
Yeah. So, that was my first one,
But after you refurbed, you refied to a conventional loan?
Yeah, 30-year fix. So over 30 years, yeah.
Amazing.
I think the interest rate. So when you do a cash out refinance, which a lot of real estate terms, but so when you do that, you typically end on an investment property. It's a higher interest rate. So my interest rate was like 4.85 on it.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it is what it is. You're I don't know why they have it that way, but cash out refinance is higher.
Still cash flowing.
Yeah, and I'm probably not on this one. If you want me to come back, I can go into deal by deal, like a deep,
Yeah, I mean, we'll just keep it rolling and see. I'm too excited right now. I haven't even heard this part of the story, guys. So like, this is the first time I'm hearing most of this part. So this is good.
So that was December 21st of 2019. I bought that. Then I found another property, and I ended up was like, oh, this makes sense as a flip. And it was, I think it was January 12th or something like that. So I might even refinance the other one, and I was like, well, it makes sense. Like, let me try and raise money for it. So I did.
And you had no issue finding a tenant for the other place?
Oh no, dude, I rented out in 6 days.
Yeah,
so,
and you got some property manager taking care of all that, right?
Yeah, and I can go into team building more, and I can go into my criteria and all that stuff. Probably on another episode where you want me to dive into individual deals and how you structure businesses. So it was 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, and I was just I need all this stuff. I need to just light the world on fire and go get it. So then I was like, okay. One popped up, and I was just like, well, let me see if I can raise money for it, and I was able to. So
now you have credibility because you've already had one deal that you've done. You've shown people that you can do it. And now they're like, this guy's done this. And plus you probably have a relationship with that private lender who got paid back immediately, and you can build another relationship, and they might have other friends who are lenders, and it just compounds on itself.
Yeah. So that was a flip. So that one I got under contract as a flip. And then I am now currently working on construction on my second rental. And that's kind of a bigger project. It's a new roof and a new HVAC and stuff like that. But so once that's done, I should be refinanced out of that in about 3 weeks.
And this is all out of state.
All out of state. I pretty much have been averaging about a house every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
I have my fourth one under contract right now. So hopefully we go with that. Um, and I mean, under contract, I'm conscious. I just fell out of contract for one that had a lot of termite damage that I didn't know about until I got an inspection. So fell out of contract on one, got under contract on another one. So pretty much that leads me up to right now. And once I'm done with the refinance, I'm going to quit my
Refinance
job.
on what?
The second rental.
Okay.
So that should be in about
So it
3 weeks.
was first rental property, second house flip, and then you bought a third rental property, and now you're building a construction. Or you mean when you said construction, you meant a refurb?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm doing a rehab on it. I think it's like $17,000 worth. It's a new roof and a new
And the
HVAC.
second one you bought to then resell.
The second one, yeah, the second one was a flip.
And did you flip it? Is it sold?
Oh yeah.
And how much profit did you get on that?
28,000.
$28,000, and that was in a matter of how many weeks?
That one was about in between like 3 and 4 months, I believe.
And then you're taking that money and you're putting it down on another property, and you're gonna keep going.
Yeah, well, actually, I still just borrow other people's money, so I take that money
That's
and
the way to do it.
I put it towards like marketing and a couple other things. Like so when each rental the goal, if I didn't have to ever sell a house, I wouldn't. I like holding rental properties, but each one
Are,
I like
are
to
they
bring
in your name, or you have them in an LLC?
So if you're going to buy a rental property, you should buy them in your name.
For tax
Uh
purposes, I would imagine.
for no, well, because LLCs are like they're fly through or transparent
That's true. Yeah, I
corporations.
mean
So like
that's what my business is like.
yeah,
Kind of smart.
so when you buy it, like so pretty much if you go to refinance with an LLC, they're gonna do a commercial loan, which is gonna be a higher interest and less favorable terms. So if you're able to buy it and you have like a good W-2 job like I have right now,
Yep.
you just do it that way because you get better interest, you get better terms and all that fun stuff. And then after I think 2 or 3 months, you're allowed to transfer it title over into an LLC. Um, so it's same
Interchangeable.
process, just you have to
Yeah.
wait a little bit. So you get your I'm not super liable now because now it's in my LLC.
The first
Um,
house.
correct. But originally it wasn't my name. So
Okay.
that's more or less how you do that. And yeah,
And
so
you learned all of this from listening to podcasts
yeah, and just
and doing.
and failing,
Yeah.
really luckily failing
Yeah.
a lot, and just going out. Like I said, I got my license and stuff, and just talking to people, just constantly networking. It's
Yeah.
people are pretty willing. Like I'll talk to
Totally.
anyone about it. It's kind of
Yeah.
I've never met someone that's like does real estate and's not like super passionate about it, like especially when they invest. Like so it's pretty easy to get them on the phone, and it's like,
Totally.
hey, tell me your entire story. Like really pat yourself on the back, make yourself sound like the man, and like you just get a lot of information out of them, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's probably like my best education.
All right. So
So
then you bought. All right. So taking my first house, North Carolina, refi 150. Second house, buy a flip. Probably it sounds like it just sold maybe a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, whatever. That was 28,000 profit. Now the third house is the one you're currently doing refurbishments on.
yeah. So as of right now,
It's moving fast, man. Moving
yeah.
fast.
Well,
You were
my goal
ready.
my goal was 13 houses this year. So that's the goal.
You got to go on some more higher audience shows than me. People, this is an amazing story. If when you do it.
Well, so I mean I can get so my one why obviously is Kendall and getting my time back. So
Yeah.
that's huge for me. My
Can you
other
explain to people how we know you've had these assets sitting that are getting paid for themselves worth certain, how is real estate going to give you your time back as far as cash flow goes or so be it.
Well, it could be a lot of ways. So
Let's see what yours is.
without going too into it, because I think it's more of an analytical thing for like another
Yeah,
show.
totally.
So I mean, I'm starting. So I market down in North Carolina, right, for
Mm-hmm.
distressed properties and the stuff that I can buy off the MLS. So I have a website, right,
Yeah.
that pretty much it like people will go there and they'll fill out like a pamphlet saying like, oh, I want to sell my house and all this stuff. it gets all that information, puts it into my CRM, which is, I mean, customer relationship, something, something.
Management. Yeah.
Some abbreviation for that, but pretty much it helps you manage your business. So, and then I have an acquisitions manager down there. So there's two ways. So I send out direct mail. Once someone gets it and pretty much goes to go give me a phone call, I have a third party business that answers my phones for me, so I don't have to. And then that goes into my CRM as well, and that goes to my like acquisitions. And then I pretty much just give the go ahead of like doing the analytics behind the property and being like, yay, nay, like this is what I can offer, this is what we can go up to, that stuff. And then it pretty much just goes through like the system. So it's not really that time intensive for me. You know, I have had more time to myself than ever in the last six, you know, plus years. And I am
Insanity.
planning on quitting my job in the next, as soon as I'm done with the refinance, to focus on this full time. So I'm actually, my first 2 months, I plan on not working other than just doing what I just said I pretty much do.
Mm-hmm.
And just spending the summer with my daughter.
So
Because
what is going to be paying the bills then?
so again, coming with budgeting and all that stuff, I have about 14 months of my expenses saved up.
There it is. Okay.
So I don't have to work or do anything for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much I'm going to keep all of my flipping profit back into the business so I can just keep acquiring rental properties
Of
and
course.
eventually live off passive income. And
Of
like,
of cash flow from the properties, you think?
yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, they don't cash flow more than 200, $300, do they?
No. So I mean, it depends.
But
Some,
then once you get to 13 properties, that's almost $4,000 a month
yeah, well, absolutely. And also you could think
or
of it
less,
like,
or
so
2,000 depending.
people have different views on cash flow.
Mm-hmm, of
Mine's a very
course.
conservative view. Mine is not just after you know, after insurance, your mortgage and property tax. Like I think my bill for all that is like 750. I have my property management and then I take a bunch of savings
For repairs.
for repairs. So if I didn't take all those savings, I think it would cash flow like $250
That's still
a
so
month.
good, dude. That's still so good.
And so I do take a considerable amount, so I don't ever have to like really dig into my own pocket. And so I end up cash flowing, I think like $70 a month.
Okay.
Um, so, but
Sounds
the
more
thing is,
reasonable.
yeah, yeah. But so I bring a good amount of like reserves, about $10,000 to the table when I close on a house, in case anything ever goes wrong. I add a lot of value to it by making pretty big rehabs on them, like a new roof and HVAC.
So it sounds.
Yeah. So I try and structure in a way that like I never after I have it, I don't ever have to go out of my own personal pocket for it. So right now it's less cash flow, but pretty much if you just did it out of inflation, like 3%, like around the board, I would
Mm-hmm.
end up making like close to $200 off of each house in the next like 5 years. So if you have 10 of
Yeah.
them, you know,
Two
it ends
grand.
up being like 2 grand. And I live, like I
Could
said,
live
I'm good
off
at
that.
budgeting. So even if I was to make my budget roughly, I need about like I think like 2,600 to live
I think
each
I'm
month.
close to that as well. But you got two.
Yeah. So pretty much the way I always look at it too is like, say I am able to generate like $100, $1,000 in cash flow. That cuts my bills in half. So that savings that I have right now will really last about 2 years without me making any income. You know, without me
Mhm.
taking out any
Yeah, I mean,
profit,
and then
without
you
me
can
doing
just
anything
focus
else.
on building more relationships with other private lenders and getting better deals together and building your empire.
Yeah. So,
If you should want, or you could just spend more time with your daughter
well, I mean, I definitely want to build an empire because right now, like,
because it's fun.
it's well, you know what it is like. So, I always so like it's not that hard. It's really not that time intensive
Doesn't
as
sound
long
that
as you
hard.
make yourself like and put yourself in a vulnerable spot. Because I always say, and I say it to myself all the time, is that whenever I'm doing something and like I'm scared, I just say I'm being selfish because I'm like, okay, so if I want to be able to, like, one of my life mantras is I don't care about becoming a billionaire. I care about positively impacting a billion people's lives. I'm never going to do that by just living like modestly, you know, like
Hmm.
not like personally modestly, but
I know
like
what you
my
mean
goal is being modest, you
in
know?
actions.
So you're gonna have to figure out the systems and like building stuff if you want to be able to like, give that much finance to people to impact them in your time. So you have to not be in your business, you have to work on it and you have to be able to scale it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the current model I have is pretty good for that. I could probably scale it up to, like I said, I think with the current model, I could probably do about 20 houses a year and not be like super in the business again. Um, just because I have people that work for me that are super talented,
Yeah.
and pretty well compensated. So right now, that's where I'm at, and I want to try and build it in the New Jersey market as well.
Okay.
Um, and pretty much just go from there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so there's the story. And yeah, guys, I'm trying to make this show. It's called Changing the Climate. I want to talk about the changing world around us and how we can make it better. I think this story is a great example of how you can be handed circumstances and people can tell you you need to do this, you need to do that. People will think one thing's going to happen, or they're going to be failure. They're going to have so much strife in their life. And yeah, failure, like Dan has said, failure is good. Strife is helpful. It's taught him so much. He's learned so much. The idea is, as far as change goes, I think it's quite obvious that if you work hard, you can achieve really anything. It doesn't matter what kind of situation that you come from, no matter what your circumstance, you can really kind of build up your dream life how you want. Real estate's obviously a great way to do that, but if you want to start like a makeup company or a shoe store or something, if you have the knowledge and the drive, I mean, what's stopping you? Like, I want to talk about making the world a better place and changing the situation. I want this episode. I guess the focal point is that it's the limiting mindset is completely constructed. This idea that because Dan had a kid in high school, his life is ruined. He's going to be working 70 hours a week for a department DPW and picking grass all day or whatever. I'm not sure what you guys do. You guys make like really nice like flowers and stuff. I'm pretty sure.
Do a little bit of everything, but yeah.
But it's BS really. The only limiting factors is your mindset, your determination, your work ethic, and that's really what's going to stop you from doing anything. We need to inspire people with stories like this to show that really anything's possible. Anyone can do anything. And you said that you weren't like a great student in high school, right?
No,
It doesn't mean anything. It
no.
doesn't mean anything.
I'll give you an example because I'm really like I said, I'm the least talented person in the world when it comes pretty much all around the board. I'm intentional.
This is the guy that now has 4 houses and is talking about getting 20 next year is calling himself the least talented person ever. So
because I'm super intentional. Like that's just it. Like I really know what makes me happy, and that's about it. But like, how long do you think it would take you to read 10 pages of like a book? Just a normal book.
6 or 7 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, it takes me about an hour and 10. I am not a very I like I said, dude. Like I was never that good at school or anything like that.
Auditory learner.
Do you know how many books I read last year? Business, education, and self help growth. I read 23 and a half books last year. I read 10 pages every single morning. That's part of my morning routine. It takes me about an hour and 10 minutes, but I still do it.
Yeah. That's just you. Your crazy work ethic. It's put you where you are today. And this, oh man, like its story is so cool, but it really just sounds like the very peak, like beginning of it to me. Yeah. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, life comes down to a bunch of decisions and kind of going back towards if you feel like you were dealt something that was like wrong or, I know even after my dad died, I dealt with anger that I couldn't really aim it at someone because it was just you were angry, but like it was no one's fault. One of my favorite quotes is that it's not the venom from a cobra it's not the bite from the cobra that kills you. It's running around with the stick trying to kill it that pumps the venom to your heart. So you pretty much can take on anything in life and nothing can negatively impact you except for yourself. Because it's how you handle something. It's how you perceive something and pretty much good or bad. Like I said, like you could probably go back and you listen to it. I'm pretty sure I said that one of like the biggest benefits was my dad dying and being a young parent, and like I view it as a benefit. Like, you know, it sounds super weird when you say it, but like I never would have been able to be the person I am today without that, or I could have ended up being like a loser, you know.
You could
So,
have, but that's not what you had set out for yourself.
yeah.
You
So
knew what you wanted, and you went for it, and you had to struggle to get it, is what it came down to.
yeah, and I didn't necessarily always know what I wanted. I knew I didn't have like a clear picture of how to get it. That's what it is. I always knew what I wanted, but like literally
Yeah.
the only reason why I even started becoming obsessed with real estate is because I couldn't answer a simple question, and I was like, hmm. I was like,
Yeah.
that does kind of bother me, doesn't it?
I mean, and it's real estate is cool anyways, isn't it? Well, that's great. I think that's good. I think, Dan, if you want to come back on the show and tell us how everything's going, that'll be awesome, and just give people more inspiration to see, like, it just seems like your origin story has just ended, and it's really like crazy, and it's just going to end up being this huge long story that I'm like really looking forward to keeping up with. So yeah, I mean, if you want anything else to say for people, I think we're definitely going to have you back. All these guys, Darian's building his business, Bailey's still building. We'll have everyone come back on and check up with everyone, because I'm going to be doing this podcast for a long time now. So anything you want to say to kind of just like wrap up for today's episode?
Uh,
I think you
yeah,
did. I think you figured it out.
I would probably just say, well, one, just to hit me up. I'm gonna give out my number now because why not?
Yeah. Do you want to show your website or no?
The website's under construction right now, so
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
that's currently under the process. So I mean, I'm just gonna give my personal contact number because you know it's 973-513-2571, and it's really not that hard. And anyone, no matter what you're going through right now, can literally retire within 10 years without just making absurd changes to your life. It's
Mm-hmm.
I can pretty much numerically show you how to do it.
So could I.
Yeah, so it's really, that's probably the biggest thing I would want people to take away is that like if you want something, you could do it, and if you want something and don't do it, your actions aren't dictating what your actual like wants are in life, and that's on you.
Yep. Make a plan, ladies and gentlemen. Make a plan. All right. That was an awesome episode. I'm still trying to I'm going to figure out how to end the stream here now. Thank you, Dan Vineis, for coming on. I loved that story. It was great. And let's continue changing the climate, folks. Stay happy, stay positive. 2012.
See you.
Okay. So I ended